Hello, my name is Georg Boucher. We'll be talking about international marketing today in this short lecture. We will look how you would market and sell your product abroad. Well, first of all, what's the difference between international trade and international marketing? Well, we could say international trade just means selling a product on a foreign market, and international marketing takes place when an organization actively markets products or services in more than two regions. So if you think about more than two regions, every region might have a different background. So of course it's not the same selling a product in Germany than selling a product in Turkey. If you just think about the language, that's completely different. Well, IKEA, what they do is they are actively involved in international marketing. You all know IKEA, you know Ingvar Kamprad from Sweden, very interesting company, very controversial company as well when you read about Ingvar Kamprad. And what they had to manage is to see how to sell their products on the different markets, at what price, and how to promote them, how to communicate their brand. So that was a very big deal for IKEA. Also, what was interesting is when IKEA set up their operations in Russia, they had many difficulties. So basically, international marketing involves so many different factors. Kodak, you all know Kodak. What they did, they sold cameras and they sold these typical films. They did not really pay attention to the new trend back then when the digital cameras came up, and they also didn't really start well when they came from the United States to Germany. They've just translated their internet pages, and it wasn't done by somebody who was a native German speaker, so even the texts on their internet pages didn't sound very nice, and that has a lot to do with marketing in that sense, that you present yourself on your internet page and you make the text of the internet page readable. Well, so what does international marketing involve? And many people think of marketing as advertising and communication, but marketing is actually a lot more. I'm sure you've heard the term 4P. So basically, the 4Ps are product, price, place, promotion. And if we take these four terms and mix them together, we call that the marketing mix. Let's have a quick look. Place, price, product, and promotion. That means we have to think what kind of product or service do we want to offer. At what price, what's a reasonable price and a price that customers are willing to pay? How do we sell our product through retail? That means basically small shops. We just offer our product to distributors. Do we want to sell our product online? And then we have to promote our product. So international marketing, well, we could also say international marketing mix. The international marketing mix is a little bit like the card game. We have to know how to play these four cards that you can see on your right hand side. We have to know how to play these four cards right. So international marketing also has a lot to do with strategy. If we think about what product or service we use for a certain market, at what price, how do we offer it and how do we promote it? So basically we come up with a strategy. So international marketing or marketing in general and strategy are terms that are very close to each other. First of all, when we say where do we want to go, there was an interesting classification of Etzel and his colleagues in 2007. That's interesting. I just wanted to show that to you quickly. And it says, well, the so-called status. Etzel and his colleagues talk about pre-industrial countries, less developed countries, industrialized countries, and post-industrial countries. So they mention Australia, Singapore, and Japan as post-industrial countries. And if you look at the gross national income, well, there's huge differences. So when you come up with international marketing, with an international marketing strategy, you'd always have to look at the circumstances of the country that you're going to. There is an interesting firm from Israel, they called Castro, and they wanted to set up about 300 shops in Germany only with their clothing. And if you look at the image, Israel is a very nice country. I've been there before. It's a very cool country. And if you look at the lady and the gentleman, well, the clothes look fashionable, but Castro only opened up 7 shops in Germany, and they didn't manage to, come up with the 300 shops. So the question is, was it the big competition in Germany? If you look at all the different clothing companies, H&M, from Scandinavia, the Inditex group with their brands like Zara from Spain. So, well, they had big difficulties, and it was maybe just not the right time. There was maybe too much competition, and maybe they just didn't have the right marketing in that sense. It's not so easy as it looks. So, well, Castro failed, so to say. Even Kellogg's, you all know Kellogg's, they had difficulties coming onto the market with their products in Europe. But Europe wasn't such a challenge like Japan, for example. They didn't really know how to market their product in Japan because the Japanese, they don't like cold milk and stuff swimming in cold milk. They like to eat something tough for breakfast and something rather, well, salty. So Kellogg's had a big challenge when they went onto the Japanese market. So in that case, you might want to change your product and come up with something completely different and not take your existing products and market them on the foreign market. So basically, international marketing involves the process of finding out the needs of customers in a foreign country, like in the case of Kellogg's in Japan, to say, all right, they want something completely different. And then we'd have to provide the required entities at the right place, at the right time and the right price, so to say. So that sounds easy, but it's not always that easy. And then we'd have to think if we have to modify our product, terms like standardization or adaptation come up. So international marketing, well, is a very challenging field to work in. So there is a simple strategy. If we mix the marketing mix that we talked about earlier and we combine it with market assessment, we say we first check out a market, we need to know that market, then we think about the product strategy, we think about the pricing strategy, we think about the place strategy, that means distribution, sales channels, and the promotion strategy, and promotion stands for advertising, communication, public relations. Then once you've set up your international marketing strategy, you'd have to think, do I want to export my products to the market? Do I want to maybe produce on that market? Or do I maybe work with partners? Well, it's a very challenging task, and you'd have to come up with the right internationalization strategy together with the international marketing strategy. What is quite obvious, and Gillespie and his colleagues, they said it in 2007, well, once you've made a commitment, once you've come up with a strategy, once you've come up with an internationalization strategy, well, you can't really make big changes. That is very difficult and very costly. So you have to do everything with utmost care to make sure that you don't fail and that you don't waste a lot of money and resources. One question that comes up, one serves it all. What do you think? Well, can we sort of have one strategy for all markets? It's pretty difficult. I mean, think about FedEx. They pretty much work all over the world with the same strategy, with the same international marketing strategy. Well, their service is very equal all over the place, so they don't really have to adapt it. Think about Coca-Cola. They don't really have to adapt it that much. But think about McDonald's. What they do, they offer burgers in Chile with spicy... in Mexico with spicy stuff on the burgers, and in Chile, well, the Chileans like to eat avocados, so they offer burgers with avocados. And then think about the whole issue with pork meat and beef, so that has to be adapted. So the product is pretty much changed. The advertising has to be adapted. So, well, there you go. Adaptation in that sense. Well, it's very interesting in general that many companies, it's a bit old from 1994, Roots said that many companies just work with a so-called naive rule. They just go for it and they just apply pretty much the strategy they have without thinking too much about it. And that is, pretty much a bit risky without preparation when you ignore the differences between national markets. What is also very interesting that only 36% of European managers reviewed alternative strategies and alternative entry options when going onto a market. That is not much. So very often companies have a certain set of mind and they say, we just go for it and we do what we've planned, but it makes sense to prepare that carefully, like we said earlier. And then, well, we could say, how do we operate in international marketing? There's 4 terms. You see them on your right-hand side: ethnocentric, polycentric, regiocentric, and geocentric. So pretty much we could say we could control centrally our international marketing and our international strategy. We say, okay, all over the world we have similarities. We could say each country is completely unique. We could say we operate in a certain region. Lidl, the Schwarz Group, they set up supermarkets in the United States now. Well, they look at the Baltic region as one region, which is already very difficult because in Lithuania, Lithuania, and Estonia, well, they have already different languages, so it's sometimes very complicated to view a certain region as only one single market. And then we could say, well, the world is getting smaller and smaller, terms like globalization, so we could talk about a geocentric international marketing strategy. Well, when we come up with our marketing strategy, we have to think of different political systems. Monarchies, well, they don't have too much power nowadays. If you look at Scandinavia, Benelux, or Spain, we don't have that many communist companies left, but also not only the political systems, look at the economic systems, capitalism, free market economy. If you look at China, they still have very many state-owned enterprises, but I mean, there have been so many changes in China, but it's definitely challenging to come up with the right marketing strategy for the Chinese market. So first of all, when we come up with our international marketing strategy and the market assessment, we have to segment the market and we have to say, all right, who do we want to target? And that is a very, complicated task. We have to find out, about the age group, about the behavior, about how people live and work in the country, and then adapt our strategy to their behavior. Then differences in promotion. We cannot really apply the same advertisement all over the world. That has to be adapted. If you think about, for example, Toyota. Toyota is a Japanese company. It's the most successful car manufacturer in the world still. And they have had an advertisement in China where the Toyota car is passing by a bridge in China with two lions, and the lions are bowing, sort of saying, wow, showing respect towards the car. And that wasn't very good because there used to be a war between China and Japan, and battles were fought exactly where that bridge is with these lions. So the Chinese thought, hey, the Japanese are trying to get us angry and pull our leg when these lions were bowing. These Chinese lions made out of stone were bowing towards, showing respect towards the Japanese car. So that didn't really work out well. So there's different academic studies about reasons for adapting in general, and the most common term that was mentioned in this survey, 93%, was we need to adapt our international marketing strategy, our products and services, because of culture, and then how the market is set up, and competition plays a very important role, and laws. So you can see so many different points. I've just listed 12 on your right-hand side, but there are many more reasons in order of importance for adapting your international marketing strategy. And again, also there might be, and there are many reasons for standardization. So many firms, they want to look uniform on a global basis, and they want to have one image. So 81% of the companies in that survey done in Cyprus, well, they said, it wasn't done in Cyprus, it was done by authors from Cyprus. Well, these firms said, okay, in 81% of the cases, we want to look uniform. And then economies of scale make sense. You don't have to adapt the appearance of your product. You don't have to do too many changes. So economies of scale are always an important issue as well. Then we have to look at differences in pricing. I mean, if you think about it, let's say you have a company in the United Kingdom, and it would be already difficult to offer your product at the exact same price in a foreign market on a different continent. I have a little small example. It might look a bit confusing. All you need to look at is let's take a machine that is sold in the United States for 30,000, let's say US dollars. And if we want to sell that in Japan, well, it would already cost over $35,000 to send it to Japan. If you look at the different think you'd have to pay to send it over there. And then we have to come up with a value-added tax that has to be paid when we bring the product onto the market. And then we might work with a distributor in that company, and the distributor works with a dealer, so they want to earn a little bit of money. So that very same machine that could be sold in Kansas City for $30,000 might then cost over $50,000 on the Japanese market. So you have to look at these prices carefully and then think what you could do. Well, one thing that you could do is, it's called downsizing in the academic world or in the business world. That means you make your product a little, let's put it that way. Your product is made a little more simple. You might have less features. There are many different things to go down with the price. Besides the downsizing, you might want to change your distribution channel. You might want to sell directly to retailers and not go through a wholesaler who wants margin as well. You can eliminate costly features or make them optional. So the clients who want these extra features, they pay extra. And then you could say, hey, why don't we send our products over there and assemble them over there? We might pay less customs, and we can adapt the product to escape different tariffs when we take it abroad. That was pretty much all I wanted to say about international marketing. Thank you very much for your attention. Have a good day.